project, every iteration seems to get a yet a longer name. But you should ask Kokulan what his full name is. It's nearly as long as nearly as long as what was called Project Oakdale in terms of a name, but he'll explain that for you there. So I'll hand the floor over to him and enjoy the session.
Cool.
You're on.
Okay, yep. So can you guys hear me okay?
You sure can.
Okay, cool. So thanks for taking your time to join this session, and I hope you will find it useful. The topic is on Teams here and Power Platform integration with Project Oakdale, which the name has changed last night. And when I went to check and read more details about what I should be including to the slide, and it's already changed. I was like, am I on the wrong link? No, I was actually on the right link, but Microsoft changed it. So a little bit about me. So I'm from Sri Lanka. You can find from my name is really long. So, and I work as a Dynamics 365 tech lead at Blacklight. I started as a .NET developer, but then I had to work on lots of CRM projects. And initially I hated it, but now I love it because of with all the Power Platform and Dataverse features that I'm more and more in love with the platform now. So yeah, that's how my journey started with the Power Platform. So I'm not going to go into like as a in-depth. It's not a deep dive. This is like an introductory session. But if this is actually useful, then I could think about doing a deep dive as well. So this is going to be an introductory session, not a deep dive. So first I will be introducing a Power Platform, but I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it because I am actually speaking at Power Platform user groups, so everyone already knows what Power Platform is, but just wanted to make sure we are all on the same page when we are talking about the Teams integration. That's why I wanted to touch on quickly on the Power Platform components and then move on to the integration with Teams. And then I will be moving on to the main component, which is the Dataverse for Teams or Project Oakdale. Yesterday was called Project Oakdale, and I had a name before Dataflex. I'll come to that when I go to that particular slide. And then I will also be doing demos. So first I will start with the hero template demo, and then we'll be showing the sample app so that gives an idea as to what sort of things we can build using this this new stack. And also I will be going through what's on the roadmap, which is based on what they have actually discussed in the expert sessions at Ignite, and also at CDS Saturday event also we discussed a lot. So that's how I found out more about what's on the roadmap. So I will be going through that. And then finally, what are the limitations? There's actually, the Dataverse for Teams itself is actually almost like an express edition for Microsoft to push the Power Platform even further. And especially when we are all working from home, Teams is the only one-stop place to do everything. So that's why they wanted to use the Teams popularity to push the Power Platform to almost every users. Right, so this diagram, I'm sure most of you have already seen, like, I don't know, a million times. So this, as of now, this is these are the components, the main components part of the Power Platform. Let me take the light pointer. 1 second. Okay, so so most of you already know where these components are coming from. So even though we have a name called Power Platform, none of these are like brand new, born out of nowhere. These are natural evolutions of products that we had for a long time. So the Power BI is actually created by the SSRS team. Initially, it was part of the Office 365. Used mostly with the Excel, and then eventually it became the most powerful BI engine, and it is now on its own used by almost every company, to be honest. So that's the BI platform, and it's got its own portal. So if you want to create any reports, we'll have to use the Power BI Studio. And then under the Power Apps, so it actually started with the Canvas app back in 2016. Initially, the model-driven app and the Power Apps portal was not part of the Power Apps umbrella, but now it is all part of the Power Apps. They all are called Power Apps, and there are 3 types: Canvas, Model Driven, and Portal. I'm not going to go into detail of these because you guys already know. And again, the Model Driven app is not going to be part of this discussion for Dataverse, but it is actually planned for. I mean, they planned it for GA, but I checked today; it's not available. So I guess they're going to release after some time for the Teams integration. And then Power Automate. So Flow, then they changed the name to Power Automate. We still have the Flow, but it's Power Automate is like an umbrella name now. And I think most of you might know this is actually originates from the BizTalk. So Microsoft had the BizTalk. I'm sure you guys worked with the BizTalk. Not all of them, at least some of you might have worked with the BizTalk back in 2000, or I think it is 2000. So that Microsoft wanted to create the online version or cloud version of the BizTalk, and then it didn't take off, and they eventually ended up creating Logic App as the cloud native workflow engine, because at that time, whether it is Dynamics CRM or SharePoint, they were all using the workflows based on the Windows Workflow Foundation, which was like pure design for Windows operating system, not a cloud native workflow engine. So that's why Microsoft created the Logic App from the, I think it was called the Windows Azure BizTalk Services. That's what the cloud version of the BizTalk, and that then that product was retired, but then Logic App born from that. And then for when they created the Logic App, they mainly created at the beginning it was purely JSON based, so you'll have to edit the JSON core, JSON code, but they wanted to create a UI for it to be easy for users to create, and that's how they ended up creating the Flow. And then Flow itself became much more easy and popular. So the Logic App, so the Flow is was used much more than Logic App, and they then tried to fix the issue with the workflow in SharePoint. And the same thing goes true. I mean, same thing is true for the Canvas app as well. So they were trying to fix issues with the issues or improve the SharePoint forms and views and even InfoPath. And that's the initial purpose of the Canvas app. They created a Canvas app for, but because they become much more popular than how it was used in SharePoint, and or same thing for the Canvas app, it's become very popular, used in so many different used with so many different platforms, and then so the connectors became the key part of the Power Platform. In my opinion, if there is no connectors, I don't think we can have the word power, because it's like you unplug the main supply or power or something, then it loses power. So it's only when you plug to the data sources or functionalities in other systems, then these become very useful. Otherwise, you can only do limited stuff without having the connectors. So the connectors are the main thing that ties together all of these components and allowing them to talk to all sorts of different systems. I think it is now around 350 or more connectors. And there are more and more connectors being added, and that's just the public connector number we're talking about. We're not talking about the connectors that are built by companies. Lots of companies, every company will end up building at least 1 or 2 custom connectors to talk to their own API or some third-party API they use. So yeah, so that's the connectors. So the connectors is the main thing on main component as part of the Power Platform, and then the to store data. And also to build more and more products on a platform, on a common data platform. Microsoft tried to bring SharePoint into this. Actually, it was initially Office team anyway, so they are the one worked on all of these. So it was all initially developed and worked on by the Office team, and then they were trying to fit the SharePoint in it, but because of SharePoint didn't have the robust solution support, solution deployment and packaging, and rich relational data, highly normalized data. So for those, I'm not saying we cannot do in SharePoint. It's like it's not the perfect candidate, and they're also considering creating a brand new data platform. But then it's going to take a lot of time. It's a high risk, and then that's why they gave up the idea of doing that. And then Gone are the days of where Microsoft teams work in silos. They don't do that anymore. They have systems and people in place to check and detect if there are things going on in silos. And then that's how they talk to the Dynamics team, and they found out that they can actually have or reuse or extract something from Dynamics and then create these data platforms. I'll go into that in a bit detail about how that is created. Now, quickly on to this. So Microsoft is saying it's a low-code, no-code platform. Now, in my opinion, this is nothing new, because when I've been doing CRM development for over 7 years now, I could create a completely new management system without writing a single line of code, even back in 2011. So this has been possible before, but it is clearly named so that they can actually appeal to more users. And because people are afraid of code or coding, so if it says you don't need to code anything, then they will actually be interested in and get on board. So it's mostly marketing, to be honest. I know the Canvas app allows us to build the apps using the expression language, but it is, I mean, we were doing stuff, we were doing similar thing for a long time. So nothing new. It's all clearly named and defined to bring in more people. And yeah. And then quick note on this. This is actually barely just over a year-old product. It was announced back in 2019. I mean, last year, Ignite. The only reason I wanted to talk about this is like if let's say there was no Dataverse or CDS, then it's very difficult to build this product, because this is actually completely built on top of CDS. So if you install and if you go and inspect all the entities and data stored on CDS, you can find out the whole product is there. So that's the whole reason they wanted this common data platform, so that they can build new product. And they have built more other products. I haven't included them in the slide, but if you guys are interested in, then we can talk about it in some other session. Right. So I'm not going to spend too much time on this, but quickly we'll touch on how these CDS came to be. So we had so they released the original version of CRM1 back in 2003, but then they only added the capability to add a custom entity in 2005. Ever since that was added, people started creating all sorts of systems. Even though Microsoft only built the CRM, people were building all sorts of systems, because you could create a custom table. So I should also say it is not entity anymore, it is table, and that's only changed like a week ago. So with that capability, because companies around the world started building custom system, Microsoft quickly realized they didn't actually expect people to build custom system. They actually allowed a custom entity capability so that people can extend the sales or marketing or service process. But I mean, even just as an example, from Blacklight, we built a hire management system and all sorts of system back in 2013, 14. So we did that. So after releasing that feature, the custom entity capability, Microsoft then took this on board, did lots of marketing, and they added more and more features in a way that it's not just CRM, you can build any system, but on the whole, it is still a CRM. You will have to install the whole thing. You can't separate anything. So even if you want to create, let's say, a small system with few entities, you will still have to install the entire CRM. That will be, I mean, it has normally like 300 over tables it will create. So you can't do anything about it. So with the requirement from the Office team, they were looking for like I said, the common data platform, and then they had discussion. They decided, okay, what about these people are able to create these systems just using the XRM capability. The XRM means anything relationship management system. So they were asking, why don't we move that into a core layer so that we can build anything on top of that, and then the Dynamics team, they can still carry on developing and adding more modules or features to what they already have. So in spring 2016, they actually did this separation internally, but the product itself, you still have to install the whole of CRM. And they moved the layers. They moved the sales service marketing into an upper layer. Plugins were renamed, changed, and the codes all isolated, but they couldn't actually separate into a separate install. Towards the end of 2016, that's when the common data service was announced, and also the Canvas app all went GA. So by October 2016, so that's when they actually clearly separated that as its own core. It can actually function without the actual original CRM part of it, like sales, service marketing. So this is when everything started. I think it's end of 2016. Yeah. So that's how we have the Dataverse or CDS. So from 300 some tables, they managed to get it under 100, and the platform became much faster, smaller, and you can build anything because there's no dependency. And it is actually based on the common data model, which I'm not going to go into detail. Common data model is something that Microsoft has it on paper and it's on GitHub, and anyone who wants to follow that scheme or add to that, they can actually use that. And Microsoft is also creating more and more like industry accelerators as well. So industry accelerator CDMs are there on GitHub. Again, I'm not going to go into those now because it's an introductory session. Right, so once they move to this new model, because everything is on cloud, they can actually change anything they want. So they change the storage structure. So if it is a relational data, and if let's say I'm opening a table or entity data, it hits the SQL pool, Elastic pool, and then retrieves the data from there. But if I store an image or file in CDS, again, I'm not going to use the name interchangeably because it's only 6 hours. I can't completely switch to Dataverse yet. Yeah. So the files are stored in the blob storage, and the logs, audit logs or trace goes into Cosmos. One thing is it's really cheap, and also it is all in line with the Office 365 compliance center, because if you can actually retrieve logs and traces from there to audit logs to the compliance center as well. So this is how the storage is now on cloud, but on-prem still it's the same, even though the modules have been changed, but the underlying storage has not changed for the on-prem Dynamics 365. Right, so now the Power Platform is really popular when it comes to Canvas App. It's actually taken off a lot, and then the only hurdle the CDS side or Dataverse side has is the cost side of things. It is actually expensive. For bigger companies, it's fine because paying £70 for a user or £7 for a user is not big money for them because they make a lot. But if we consider small businesses, paying 71 pounds or even 30 pounds, and if they have 30 odd users, then it's going to add up to a lot of money they will have to spend. So this is the hurdle they have at the moment, and that's what Microsoft trying to address. So they don't want to kill this model because they're making a lot of money, and at the same time they want to still push so that more and more people are on board with the CDS or Dataverse, and then that's the whole reason they thought about what other ways they can push it. And now looking at the team side of things, it has grown massively compared to how it was like at the beginning of this year. So you can see, even though it started like 3-4 years after, say, the Slack, in 2019 September it overtook, and in April this year it's actually 75 million, and that's in April. But I think it might have gone up more than 100 million now. So the main point here is Teams growth is something Microsoft would not expect that it will be growing this fast. So and most of us working from home, so they want to now take advantage of this because they can push anything to Teams, and it's like one-stop hub. So that's why they thought about pushing CDS towards Teams. So not just CDS, the whole Power Platform. So you can see the Power Platform is massively used, but the Teams also massively used, and you can see the numbers. So they just won't take advantage of it, and they're saying it's a perfect opportunity, and it's like you don't want to switch between too many browser tabs and browser windows when you do development. And if you can do it directly from within Teams, it will be much more productive, and you don't have to install so many different tools as well. So that's why they have decided to bring the Power Platform development into Teams. So what they've done, so first thing is the Maker portal. So they created an embedded version of the Maker portal so that we can create Canvas app or Power Automate flows directly from within Teams. And so that's what they've done for creating the app. And they've also created an embedded version of the virtual agent tool. I'll be going into that in a bit. So this is the whole reason there. So because of Team being popular, and they created this embedded version of it so that we can develop application directly from within Teams. And they also wanted to make it free so that people don't have to worry about cost, they can start using it. Now, if I go back to the slide of CDS, so if you actually go for full CDS feature with no limit, you will end up paying £30 a month per user. So now they're almost making that thing free. The only limit is you can only get 2 gig limit, so that you are still getting CDS, but it is free and it is locked. It's only within Teams. So what they're calling it low-code data platform. It is nothing but the full CDS. In my view, behind the scene, it is CDS. It's just locked within the Teams environment, and it is also limited by the size and other things. I will go through the details in a bit. And also deployment, publishing, everything has been made easy as well. So normally when I do CRM development or CDS development or Dynamics development, I'll have to go through customize, publish and all that process. With this, everything has been removed. Everything is done automatically by the system. So it is actually created for anyone, not just for power users or super users. So when I say free, so it is actually only available for E3 and above license. I think there is also a minimum seat requirement. I think it is 20, I could be wrong, but there is a minimum seat requirement as well. But I'm sure most of the companies, like with over 20 employees, will always have the license anyway. So that's how it is becoming free. And so they have limited it to 2 GB. But the thing is, the actual the framework components, the entities and data that is required to run the platform itself is going to take around 25% of the storage. Because if you buy a laptop or something, if you get Windows 10, you will end up, I don't know, 30-40 gig of the storage will already be taken by Windows. So it's the same as that. And also you can actually create 500 environments in a tenant, and that means around 1 terabyte of data storage is kind of free. It's not like you can use the whole thing in one project, but if you think about, if we compare the storage cost for full CDS, it is actually amazing that they made this free. I've already mentioned the Embedded Studio. Because they made these free, they're not actually allowing us to use the premium connectors. The only way to talk to outside of this environment is to use the custom. The only custom connector is through the API so Azure API management. So you can create custom API or Azure function or Logic app, doesn't matter what it is, as long as it can do work for you. You can then actually push it as a API connector into the Teams environment, Teams Dataverse environment. Then you can use it in Canvas app or in Flow. And also you can call, because you can call Flow from the Power Virtual Agent, you can actually use there as well through Flow. And the main change here is the actual UI itself. So it is not using the classic Canvas app UI controls, because it is, when you build an app to Teams, you want to make sure that you are building almost close, an app that looks like a native Teams app, not something like completely different website that is just embedded as in an iframe. So they came up with the responsive template, Fluent UI template just for Teams, and I expect in the long run it might actually be used in the whole of outside of Teams as well. But I think it is a testing ground for them to see how it works. And because when we create these environments, they are actually fully controlled from within Teams. So what it does, it actually is managed by a modern Office 365 group. So when we create a new team in Teams, behind the scene, it is backed by the Office 365, modern Office 365 group. And then we can have team members, guests and owners. But in the CRM world or CDS world, you have lots of different roles, system admin, customizer, so many different roles. But what they've done now, at least for this release, what they've done, they mapped the owner of a team to be system admin in CRM world or CDS world. A team member will have their member role, which is something introduced by them, and then guest will have the guest role. And they are telling that they're going to release more granular roles. I will go into that when I'm towards the end of the session. And the last thing is, it's all fine and dandy that you created apps, and what about if you want to actually deploy to different teams or different environments? Then they are going to add ALM and solution support. Behind the scene, everything is in there, everything is already there. It's just they need to unlock and allow, because right now the full CDS is just hidden. They haven't actually removed or locked stuff. That's why they have hidden everything, and I think they will gradually open that up so that we can do solution deployment and ALM, have proper ALM support as well. Again, this is something I've already touched. So normally you would pay almost close to 1K to build a chatbot using the bot framework or Power Virtual Agent. With the embedded version for Teams, you're not paying anything. It's free. So that is really big thing, because you can build all sorts of chatbots and you're not paying a single penny for it. You're still utilizing the Kokulan services because it uses Louis API to analyze the text and also to do other stuff. And also you can build custom skills as well, but you'll have to host those on your own cost. And the other thing is, when you hit any of these limits, so they call it the 3 CCs, capability, capacity, control, when it comes to the environment, then you will obviously promote to full CDS or full Dataverse as of today. Right. So when we talk about Teams app, in reality, Teams doesn't host anything. So I'm going to quickly touch on what a Teams app is. So Teams has entry points. So things like call, chat, tabs, these are entry points on Teams. We then build, or we then surface contents in these entry points by building them as capabilities. So that's all it is. It's about entry points and capabilities. When you build an app for Teams, you are actually building capabilities for these areas, whether you are displaying content on a tab, or if it is a messaging extension like the famous one is a GIF, you can add anything in there, or whether it's a webhook or bot. So they all are capabilities that we build for entry points in Teams. Yeah, so that's what the Teams app contains. Now, if we look at it, so bots or tabs or any of these, none of these are actually hosted within Teams. It doesn't know how to run your code, so because it doesn't have any runtime to run custom code or custom services. So everything will be hosted outside, but it's just surfaced in an iframe, or depending on where it is surfaced, it will be just surfaced. We'll just have to define the endpoints, and contents will be surfaced on Teams. Now, when we normally create a Teams app, we will use the App Studio, click on this new app, it will create the manifest, and we will define the app details, so we can define what our app name is and app GUID and all that details, icons and everything. And we then also define what capability our Teams app is going to have, whether it's just a tab, whether it's a personal tab or group tab, or whether we can actually have just a bot in this app. All of these can be defined. You can actually have all of them in one app as well. So once you define all of this, by defining these things here, you're just creating a manifest file. You're not actually hosting anything in Teams. And then once you created this, you will then distribute and test it, and then either you publish it directly to Teams so that others can use in your company, or if it is a public one, you can actually also publish to the actual Teams store, app store. So I mentioned that we can create, this is something we do directly from within Teams using App Studio, but you could actually create from Visual Studio or Visual Studio Code as well. Just a quick example as to how you can do from Visual Studio Code. So you can install the extension. If you click on create new Teams app, you then go through the same thing. So you select whether you want to have just a tab or these, and there are other steps that you need to go through to define the manifest. But with this, you will actually get a full React app template with Node.js, and you can develop the app, and you have to host that app or service somewhere. And then you deploy the app to Teams, and it knows where to talk because you've already defined the endpoints. Right. So normally, when you create apps, you'll have to worry about all of these, creating manifest, defining all of this. But with the the Teams integration, Power Platform Teams integration. You don't have to do any of this. It is all done for you. You just create the Canvas app and publish. Everything is done for you behind the scene. Yep. Now they have actually included a template called Hero template. That's the default one that you land on. Not sure why the name Hero itself there. I haven't done research on it, but it's called Hero template, and that just makes it easy to create an app. So, right. So, enough talking. Let's jump into a demo. Right. So I'm on Teams now. So let's start with a brand. So sorry, I'm just gonna. Right. So I'm gonna start from a brand new team. So let's create a new team. Let's call it Power Platform User Complete. Okay. By the way, you guys can hear me okay? And am I going too fast? Or let me know if it is too fast. I can slow down because I've never done any public talking. So yeah.
You're doing fine.
Okay, cool. Thanks. So I'm just adding one user to the team. Right. So normally, I mean, when you add people, you'll see a lot. Like you can have guests and owners. So the guest will by default get the guest role. I'll come to that in a bit when I go into the actual environment. So this is just a team. We haven't actually created the Dataverse for Teams environment. To do that, so you'll have to actually, to create the app, create the Teams app, you'll have to first install the embedded version of the Power App Studio. So I've already done that and also pinned that so that I don't have to do too many clicks to get to it. So if we click on Create App, so the first thing it will ask which team you want to create the app on. So let's select the team that we created just now. You can see it already detected there is no Dataverse environments for Teams for this particular team. So it is actually going to set the whole thing up. It won't take much time because they've done a really good job in making this really fast. Before it used to take like 15-20 minutes. Even for the full CDS or full Dynamics, now it takes like a minute to get the CDS. Behind the scene, it is still a full CDS. It's just things are locked and hidden. So it is creating a CDS environment just for this and locked within this particular team using the Office 365 group. Hopefully it's not going to take a long time. So you can see it already gives a notification that team environment has been created. And to make things easier, it will directly land on the Canvas App Studio and will also prompt for the app name. So give it a few seconds. Cool. So I'm just gonna give, I don't know, like let's call it events app. Yep. So in the full studio, you'll have to go into the settings and give the name. Now it just prompts the name, and also you can change here as well. I'll go through that in a bit. Cool. So we are in the embedded studio. It looks slightly different, but it's not much different to the full Canvas App Studio. By the way, I'm actually coming from Dynamics world. I'm not the Canvas App expert. Lots of SharePoint guys have done a lot more Canvas App than me, but I've only done from the CDS or SharePoint CRM point of view. Right, so you could actually change the app name here. You have the save button, very easy to use now, rather than going through that settings and save. And then you can directly publish from here to Teams. Obviously, you cannot publish anywhere else. It's only published within Teams. It's locked to the Teams environment that you're in. You created this app for. Right. So the template that we are looking at is what called the Halo template because it's already the environment is already bound. It is connected, and it's just waiting for us to create a table so that it can actually refresh and display the data. Yeah. So let's go through and create a table. So what we are doing here in the old world, we are actually creating a CRM entity. So when you create a CRM entity, we normally give a name and also a portal name if it doesn't automatically populate. So let's give, let's call it event. So you can see it's already populated. So a nice interface, but behind the scene, it's the same CDS. So it now goes and create a table. Normally it will take a lot longer to create that table, but it's really fast. And now they've came up with this visual editor idea. I think the guys from SharePoint guys might be familiar with I think it's a quick create view or something. It's kind of similar. They might have stolen from or reusing from that view. Okay, so the entity is created or table is created, and by default, when you create a table in CDS, it will have a primary name field, and it is called name. But let's change that to, because it's event, let's call it title. And you can also set the length. I'm just going to leave it to 100. I'm not going to spend too much time on this. Let's add a date field just to mark when the event is. And let's also add a choice field to say type of event. Okay, so let's call it a regular event. And you can pick a color for the choice. And let's call it special event. Again, I'm not going to spend too much time on this. So now you can see it. I don't have to wait. I don't have to go through publish or anything. It's just already done. Fields created. Whenever it says saved, it also done the publish as well. I can now start entering data like normal quick view. So let's call it intro. And then type, I'm gonna pick cell. So now what we've done, we've created an entity. We've also added one data record or row, now they call it. You also have these different views for it. They're still working on this. I think they're gonna add more columns to this, but the menu is already there. By the way, this was still in preview until last night, and the whole thing is went GA last night. So it is GA, but I think they still need to work on these views. They haven't made much changes to it yet. Okay, so we created the table or entity, whatever you want to call it, and you can see it's automatically detected that and then bound it, and the app is ready. So if we preview, so that's the record I added in the quick create view. So let's add another. So you can see the datetime control. It's a Teams control. It's not the classic datetime control of Canvas app. So that's the whole purpose of this responsive template. It looks like a native Teams app. Okay. So I just added a record, and I'm previewing it. I'm happy with the app, and if I'm ready to, so this is now not available on any Teams channel or anything because I haven't actually added to any channel. So let's publish this. And so I've done the publish. Now it's asking for where you want to, which channel you want to publish it to. Now, one thing to remember, you can only publish within this team. You cannot publish this app to different team channels. You can only do it to the the Power Platform User Group Leads team that we created just now. And right now, this app is not added to any tab. So let's add it to one and that. So the app is now ready. I know it's not the best app in the world, but if we go into Teams, and if I do a refresh, I definitely need to do a refresh because it doesn't pick up the new tabs until you refresh the whole thing. Okay, so you can see the app is already in the channel, and you can maximize and use it like a normal Teams app. Yeah, I'm not going to add any record because we've already tested that. Let's go back to the studio. Now you've got so I started from this, but the build tab is the main thing that you'll be going into every time when you do the development. So we created this. So you can see every single component that we created for this particular team. And also you see this view is different. You see more stuff now from build tab for that particular team. Right, so let's go into the table, the entity that we created now. And you can see there are a lot more fields than the 3 fields that we added. So if you set to custom, you can see the one that we created. But if you set it to full, you will see the full list of fields that you normally see on a CRM or CDS entity when you create, because these are things like modified or created by owning user, owning team, all of that. So these are all hidden but if you can access it if you want. And the only reason they're keeping it all of these is because when you hit the limit, you can promote to full CDS. When they do that, it's easy for them to simply migrate this to a bigger storage. That's all they're going to do. Yeah, so that's the full view of it. So let's add a column from this view. This got more option than the one that we've seen before. Let's say a event photo or something. Yeah, so, and here I'm gonna just select a image. It's not gonna make it as a primary image, and I'm going to leave the default size limit. So what I've done now, I added a new field column. That type is not available in the quick visual editor, but it is available in this full view. So this is the view most of us will be using when we actually do a lot of apps in Teams. Okay, so that field is added. Now, let's say I want to add that to the app. So I'm just going to open the app in the Embedded App Studio, Canvas App Studio, and then let's quickly add that field. Hopefully it's not going to take minutes. Okay, cool. So we're in there. So let's add the new field. So when you want to add new field, I mean, you guys already know. I mean, if you guys are familiar with the Canvas app, so event photo, and I'm going to say it to add pixels to the record. Okay. And let's also make it a little bit bigger. Okay, so that field is now added, and let's save the app. And we can do a preview before we actually publish it. So there's not going to be an image for the existing records. Okay, let's do. I'm not going to think about what I'm going to type, just sort of something random. So okay, so you can see you can simply add the image, and it's part of the record. Yeah, so you get the gist of what we can do. So this is just an intro. I'm not actually going to go into like in-depth details. So quickly, I'm just going to show this. So you can see this is the current environment. This is when there's a current environment. This is actually the Dataverse environment that we just created. Even though we just created one entity, you can see the list of entities there hidden. So all of these entities are still there. It is full CDS. Even though Microsoft says they have reduced and cut down to 30 entities, no, they haven't done that yet. They're just presenting and talking about it. Maybe they're having planned to reduce it. It might be a lot of work to reduce. That's why they let everything as is and just removed unnecessary data from these tables. That's what they've done. Okay, so that's the current environment. And obviously you can use all the connectors, standard connectors, SharePoint connectors, or Office 365 connectors. All the standard connectors are there. And I will quickly show the APIM connector as well. I'm not sure if I have that open. Let me quickly check. This one. I hope I'm on the right one. Okay, cool. So this is the one. Okay, so let's go into so I created the APIM service and just named it as that. And inside this, I didn't actually have time to create an API. So what I did, we can use the Echo API, which is something that you can use it for test purpose. The good thing is you can actually bring in anything. You could actually develop an API, host it on-prem, and as long as the URL is accessible, you can add to this and then create the connector. Or if you have Logic app, or doesn't matter what it is, as long as you can add to the APIM, then it can be made available to Teams app, the embedded app. So what we can do is actually, once you added the API, you can export it to either you can export it as a file, then Swagger file, then you can import it onto, if you want to create a custom connector in full platform, or if we can actually publish it now directly to the Teams environment as well. So if I select the one that we created just now, and then let's say user group leads. By the way, this is just a display name. The internal API name won't change. So if I export it, do the export, what it's doing now, it's publishing this, creating a custom connector for us, because we are not allowed to create a custom connector because that is a premium feature. They are doing it for us, and it's done through this publish. So it's done that now. So if I now go back to, I need to refresh this because I think it's cancels the connectors list. Let's refresh that. So this is the annoying bit. You'll have to actually go back to this. I think we can pin, but right. So let's go into this app and then see if we can actually, if the connectors are visible. I'm not going to go into actually using it, but I'll quickly show you that it's that easy to bring in any API functionality within this environment. So if I now look for, there you go. So that's the connector that we created just now, and you create a connection, it adds the connection reference record, and obviously you can start using it just as a, let's drop any buttons, and this is not the right place to drop, to be honest, but right, so if you go into usual, and you start writing, so if you do echo, that's the API name, so you can see it's available, and then you can just call that. That's how you can make the APIs available within this app. Okay, and what else I have in this? Right, let's quickly look at what the environment is actually looking like. So if you go ahead to Power Platform Admin Center, there is a new tab added just for the Teams environment. Okay, so if I go to the capacity page, you can see there is a separate tab where you can actually view the Teams environments and how much they're taking. So all of them are 2 gig is the max. You can't actually increase. There's no way to increase. The only way to increase is to promote it to full CDS, which will then you'll have to pay more. Right, so the one that we created, you can see already is taking up around 25% of the storage. That's largely because of that crazy number of 107 entities and data in those entities. That's why it is taking, I mean, our entity, our table and the app, it doesn't take this much. It's just the out of the box stuff that takes a lot of storage. Yeah, so that's the team environment. Now, what you could do with the environment is you could actually do things like create backup or restore, but you can only restore to this environment. You cannot like restore to a different team environment. No, it's everything's locked to this particular teams. Yeah, and if you go into the settings, this is like normal CDS settings page, but everything is hidden. You are only having access to user entity in this page. You can see those two users that we added as team members have become actual CRM users or CDS users or Dataverse users. Yep. So they are already added as part of this, and they will have the security role. So it'll open. So this link, they're still working on that bit. Let's do a run diagnostics to see. So you can see they have access to this, and that's the user, and they have right access to this. And it doesn't actually display the role, I guess. Yeah, it doesn't, but they are actually adding a page to this, you know, the table view. If you go to the table view, so from here, if we select a table, okay, and it will be possible to configure the setting from there. I'm not sure why it is. Let me double check. So if I go into the table, yeah, so there I've seen screenshot and demos from their system. I don't think they're rolled out to every region, but eventually we'll be able to control the security from this as well for at the entity level. This is something they're working on at the moment. Right, so what else? So one thing I quickly wanted to show. So when you go into make a portal, you won't actually see the actual environment because that's actually locked. You're not supposed to do create apps or anything like that outside of Teams. But they haven't actually locked it properly, so I'm able to access the environment. So I'm still in the Maker portals. You can see that's actually a Teams environment. So what I did is, if I go to Admin Center, you actually get these details. Like if you go to the environment detail, you get the environment ID. So that is one unique thing about the Teams environment, which is the same as CDS. Every environment has its own unique ID. So what I did, I checked how the full CDS one works, and then just modified the URL. So you can see if I copy that URL, so that is the default solution. That GUI doesn't change between CDS environments, which is something I know from the CRM solution. So I thought, like, why don't I use the same ID and then use the environment ID and then see if it works. So let's try that. So let's copy the environment ID. I can't actually copy that. Okay, there you go. So let's paste that in. Now we're trying to access this environment, even though they say it's all hidden, you cannot. Obviously you can. So so that is now visible, and also you can see what CRM or CDS solution they have installed. This is exactly same as a full CDS environment. So this is why I'm saying they have not done work to cut down on number of entities or solutions or anything like that. It's just the full CDS hidden and locked within Teams. That's all it is. If I try to create an app, it will clearly say, no, you can't. So let's try that. There you go. It doesn't treat this as an environment, but things like if I go into tables, I can see the tables and also the one that I saw about. So let me quickly find the entity that I created as well. It's called event. Okay, and also we can see just the field that we created. So you can see those are the fields we created, and if I want to create a new field, I can obviously do it from here. It does allow that. They forgot to lock that thing. Just leave that as default, so you can see you can do that. So you can create a new field from the full studio, but you can't do everything, and it's actually hidden. It's been not documented. I just only found out a few days ago. Yep. So that's the environment. And one other thing to quickly show before I move to the slide. Let me quickly open that. So the one advantage with this native template is actually this is the Teams object is also passed to the Canvas app as the embedded environment object. I will quickly show that in a bit, but I just wanted to show you, like, if I change like things like themes, then you can see even my app is also changing colors and everything. So you can design the app so that it matches with the Teams theme. It's very straightforward to do. All you have to do is get the data from the Teams object, and then it's got lots of other properties. You can do lots of stuff, but this is just an example of how you could do things with the Teams object that is passed to the app. And also, if you are into like getting these UI really perfect, all of these are Fluent UI controls. So you can actually go to the control library in the App Studio and, let's say, have a look at the button. And if you are interested in particular color or style, you see the attributes in there, and then you can then go and set that particular attribute value in the Canvas app. So I don't actually like the dark theme, so I'm going to switch back to this. Let's go back. So quickly going to open that. Okay, I think that's the app that I have the Teams object properties used. Wow, I was expecting that it will only take half an hour for me to do that demo, so it's like... Okay, so you can see the some properties I've just displaying here. So the way I was actually going to show. So you can see the embedded, when you create an embedded app, whether it is SharePoint or CRM or CDS, you will get this embedded object passed through. Because this is a team embedded app, you get the Teams object passed, and then there are lots of properties that you can access and use it. And so let me just, you can see all of these details are passed through. Things like this channel And then also, obviously, you can also get the team ID, and then you could use the Office 365 connector, query and get the user detail or group detail and all of that. You could do all sorts of things. And so also theme is, I think I have the, so theme also, you can see it's by saying default theme. But if you change that, that value will change. And when you change colors for this, I think I set it to, you can see if the theme is dark, then that color, otherwise, sorry, dark then black, otherwise the normal color. So that's how the color is changing, and we can actually have this as a templated theme and then use it at the global level rather than doing screen by screen. Okay, so that's everything about the app itself. Let me switch back to slide and see how much left. So let's quickly jump onto this chatbot creation. Shouldn't take long. So again, I've installed the Power Virtual Agent embedded version of it. So let's start. So let's create within the team that we created just now. Because of time, I'm not going to actually spend a lot of time on going through complex scenarios. So let's give. Okay. This sometimes we do get errors as well because they're still working on this embedded version of the studio, and also sometimes it doesn't actually detect that this is free. It's saying that I don't have license to create the board, but in reality it should allow, and then after some time it actually detects. So there is still a glitch in terms of detecting whether it is allowed, I mean whether user is allowed to create or not. Again, I'm not going to spend a lot of time. So what this is, it's actually a no-code way of creating boards. You don't have to, traditionally or normally when you create a board in Microsoft platform, you'll have to use the bot framework, use the bot framework SDK, create C# code, use it when you can create dialogues, and that's how you will normally build the bot or skill for bot. But they actually done the heavy lifting and made it easy so that we can just create using the authoring canvas. You don't have to worry about coding it for most of the scenarios. So the term used here is topic, but behind the scene it's actually dialogue. So we create the topic, define how the bot should respond. Once we done the testing, we can actually test the bot directly from within this studio. Once we test it and if you're happy, then we publish it. Obviously, you can only publish it to Teams. You cannot publish it to any other platform or channel. Yep. So let's go into the topics. So there are two types of topics. One is user topics that we create, and system topic that is already part of a system, but we can definitely customize them to our needs. So the system topic, the greeting topic actually has these trigger phrases added. So whenever user types any of these, it will then trigger this and start this dialogue or this topic conversation. I'm just going to quickly go into the authoring canvas. So by default, this is what it will be responding. I'm going to quickly change this to virtual agent group. We don't need to do that now, and then. Yeah, so that should be enough for us for the greeting. Yeah. So if let's quickly test that. Okay, so you can see that it is responding to that. Now I just quickly want to include the name as well. We can do because that is actually passed as a. Let's include the user. Save that. Okay, and if it picked up my name, so there you go. I mean, it's not the best name, but I could come up with, but it's responding to that. Now, let's go back to the rest of the topics. So the topics is like an area, so a dialogue or conversation. So you can have lots of conversations. I mean, I don't know about the limit, but it allows me to add lots. So we can add custom topics and have our own things that bot can respond to. So if let's create a URL. Let's URL finder, and it was what else? yeah, let's keep that just 2 because we're running out of time. So, okay, so in here, so I'm just gonna ask a question as to which area they would like to. So these are the things that you could do. So you could ask a question or display a message or call a Power Automate flow, and you can pass parameters and do anything you want in the flow. But this flow will be obviously running from within this team context. So you don't have access to everything, but as long as you have the APIM connector to do that bit that you want to talk outside of this, then that is covered anyway. So, and then you can also jump to a different topic. So I'm just going to quickly ask a question. But the area, and then let's call it, I don't know, Dataverse overview, and then another one we would like to know about the environment itself. Okay, so it automatically does the branching for us. All you have to do is just do the action or do further branching or calling, so any of these, yeah. So I'm going to quickly display a message in there. So let's do that, and that's done. And then for those, I'm just copying from my notepad just to save a little bit of time because we're already over. Okay, cool. So let's end the conversation with the survey. Okay, so that's actually a dialog that in normal world we would have written a lot of C# code to do this, but it is now possible using these cameras. Well, I mean, it's not now, it's an year-old product anyway. So let's quickly test here. Hi. Data, I want to talk about Dataverse. Okay, I would like to know about the overview, and then obviously it takes to that particular link. And then I'm going to say, yep, and let's end the conversation. So you can see it responds. Yeah. Okay. Sorry, my son is shouting in the background. So, yeah. Cool. So that's the board. Now I'm ready with the tester. I'm happy with the board. Now I can actually populate it to Teams. So before I populate it to Teams, I will need to first populate the bot itself to the service. So let's do that. It shouldn't take long. Cool, that is done. And then now we need to add this to Teams. So when we do this, again, it's actually creating a Teams app with the manifest file that I talked about, and then it just adds one capability, which is bot, and adds the endpoint. Yeah, that's all it does. So it is added. Now if we do a refresh, and then go into the, so we need to actually look for the apps. You can see this is the environment, and so you can see the bot is already there. So I can add that to Teams. Okay, and you can start conversation. So it's the same thing. So, and then anyone in Teams can use it. Obviously, you can control everything from Teams Admin Center, who can use the bot and stuff like that. Yep. So that's the bot part of it. I'm not going to spend more time on this one. Let's quickly look at the slide. And so the APIM connector is something I've already talked about. So that I don't think I need to spend time on this. And that, okay, so what's on the roadmap? So right now there are only 3 security roles because Teams only has 3, or modern Office group only has 3. So they are right now aligned these to CDS roles, but they are going to add more granular, but not many. They'll go like add few more in the next release and so on, depending on the needs. Obviously, they're not going to give you full flexibility of a CDS because that's defeating the purpose of them coming up with this product in the first place, because they want to make it popular, attractive, and then eventually force the users to promote the full CDS. That's the whole idea behind this. Okay, right now there's no model-driven app support, but where we created the app, it will also display model-driven, and then you can actually create the model-driven app. Even though they said expected by GA, I checked it's not available for UK. Maybe it's released for the North American region, and then we'll do later on. I don't know. Yeah. One other good thing is you can actually create PCF controls and can use them. Not yet. Will be available soon. I forgot to include that, but it will be possible. And if see the solution and ALM support, again, I've talked about it. So what are the limitations? So you cannot actually mix and match, like you create apps and use data from multiple Dataverse environments. No, you cannot do that, because that, again, you could actually use it as a workaround and get use of those 1 terabyte usage data. So they don't want you to do that, okay? And then also the data model is going to be really messy. You will end up building I don't know what sort of system. And then the other thing is you cannot do, there's no API that you can access to the data, or you cannot integrate with any Azure services. And also there's no SDK that you can download and start developing. You cannot do that. You can do for full CDS and not for this. And again, with the CDS, you can create plugins, workflow activities, or workflows. None of these are possible or locked, and you can only do it in full CDS once you promote it to full. And then the Power Apps portal, again, I don't think they will ever support this, because it doesn't make sense to have a website for a team's data. And also you cannot use the premium connectors. Right, so I don't know if I went too fast, but yep. Any questions or anything that you guys would like to talk about?
There's several questions posted in the meeting chat, but if anybody wants to stick their hands up, and we can just try and go around and see whether there are any questions that are still outstanding.
So what is your sort of, your experience in you kind of, I mean, I always think of InfoPath when I was building. You know, with InfoPath, you'd always generally hit some issue, and then you'd have to go into dive into code. Sort of, when you've been building stuff with, I'm going to call it Oakdale because I haven't got used to the new terminology yet. What are sort of, some of the kind of classic points you butt heads with that cheaper model?
Well, the main thing is, obviously, when we develop apps, we always end up creating custom connectors, Azure function, and talking to on-prem database and all of that. So that is something not out of the box available, but you will have to create the API and publish it. And then the good thing is they actually recognize this limitation, because if they didn't allow the APIM, it's not going to be very useful, because you definitely want to talk to data or services outside of this environment. So that's I think that is fine, but we haven't actually, to be honest, we haven't actually built a lot of apps on this. I've been doing lots of demo apps and also some internal apps for time entry and stuff like that. It's still the full, I mean, even though it's an embedded studio, in terms of the expression language, it's the full language. And when you hit the limit, even on the full Canvas app, if you hit a limit on, I don't know, particular functionality, then you will end up creating an API and then calling it as a two-way connector. So that's one area that I think, I mean, it's not a limitation, but it's not easy. You'll have to go through the hoops. In terms of the data model itself, it's actually full CDS. I don't see any limitation in terms of the data modeling itself. It's just they locked it and hidden stuff, but yeah. So, and then the other main limit is, from CRM point of view, we end up always creating custom security roles. And because we don't want to give access to a particular table or to particular roles, so we end up having lots of custom roles, which is something you cannot do. You can only use the 3 roles at the moment, and eventually a few more. But obviously they lock it for a reason. They are saying you're not going to get the full complexity of a full CDS from this, because if you want, you're going to have to pay and promote it to full CDS. Yeah, and hope that answers the question, or have I talked about completely or made it even confusing? I don't know.
No, that's very helpful. Thank you.
Okay, no problem.
I think Tony's got a question for you.
Yeah, I have, thanks. Can we use PowerShell to manipulate the what are now called tables? in there, or is that one of the things that we can't do?
No, so when we, I don't, at the moment it is not possible, and also I don't think they will make it available, because again that comes under the API SDK, because when you create the commandlet if they come up with the commandlet, then obviously that will be using the API, which is something they are trying to lock it down. I mean, in my opinion, the API is still there. It's just hidden. It is hidden. We cannot access the API, but I think it is still there, because I can see the full CDS environment. I don't see any difference. In fact, it's got more entities than a blank full CDS environment. I checked, full CDS environment has under 100 entities, but this one got 107 entities. So how come a minimized version of CDS can have more than what a full CDS has? So yeah, I don't know if I have that text. Let me quickly see if I can show you.
Just show me how you saw all those other entities, because I'm not sure that I see them when I look in my app.
Okay, so you can see all of these entities are part of the Dataverse or Project Oakdale.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was not expecting to see these, because from the talks I attended, they were always talking about 30 entities. So they said from original dynamics from 300 over to, they cut down to 100, under 100 for full CDS, and they said they are cutting down to under 30 for the Dataverse for Teams environment. Obviously, they cannot do that, because if you look at these entities, they are all core part of the CDS. So whether it is a solution-related entities or plugin, all of these are part of the core platform. If they try to remove or reduce this, then they might end up doing more work, and also promoting to full CDS might be difficult. So I think they're gonna lock it down and then keep it hidden, but behind the scene, in my opinion, it is full CDS.
I got one. Obviously, we saw the desktop experience there, and you ran it from the browser. What happens on the mobile app? Do you get any form of this experience, or does it not translate?
Well, so once you pin an app to any Teams channel, it's going to behave like normal Teams app. So it is responsive, and the default hero template is a tablet template, and it is fully responsive. So by default, the responsive is on, but you can actually turn it off if you want, and if you would like to do the responsive design on your own, like you can actually add the container and then do all the calculation. It's I don't normally do that, but you can actually do like you do in a full canvas app. Whereas this, by default, out of the box, it does responsive for you. You don't. This template is actually responsive, the hero template, and yeah, so
it's a very cheap way of putting a mobile app out, really. Effectively,
yeah. So
Teams.
Yeah, I don't know if I included in my slide. I think I'm actually missing a slide in there. I might have deleted because I wanted to reduce the time. But so there was actually one slide where I had that points. Yeah, I think I removed it. So the thing is, if you create let's say you create a Xamarin app for iOS or Android, the process of, just creating app itself takes longer, much longer, and then getting it onto the device it's like crazy amount of time you'll have to go through, wait for the approval, and Apple is very, very strict on styles and the guidelines. So even if you add a simple one line of style that conflicts with their guideline, they'll simply reject, and you wait for another week to get that through the approval process. Whereas this, it's part of the Teams. You don't need to do anything, and you're not actually paying either. So if you're not paying for any hosting outside of Teams, because Microsoft is hosting for you, the app is hosted. I mean, it's same as Canvas app, but it's free.
Yeah, it's an awesome way of getting a mobile app out there with the least amount of effort.
Yeah. In all terms, what I see it as, it's actually a Visual Basic 6 made available within Teams. And you drag and drop, write an expression language code, and then done. You don't need to, and it's still an app, modern Teams app, and it renders everything using the new template. Cool. I don't have a lot of resource links in there, but I can add more, the ones that I've gone through. And also I've attended lots of sessions in Power Platform Conference and CDS Saturday, and I could actually get links of all of those and put it somewhere, maybe a GitHub page, and then I can share the details with Dylan and can be shared with others.
Tony, you've got another question.
I've changed my mind, Dylan. Sorry.
You've changed your mind.
Yeah, I've dropped out.
Okay. No, it's been a fantastically useful talk and some great demos in there. I think you've answered a lot of our questions. I think there were some questions about licensing and things going on at the side. I don't know whether anybody had any questions that didn't get answered. So if you're in that boat, can you stick your hand up? We usually end up with a sort of chat going on in the meeting chat, and we people pose questions and other people answer. So it's like a secondary session going on, whispering in class, as it were.
Right.
Yeah,
I'm used to it. No problem.
Yeah, thank you. It was a great session. Really interesting as well, just seeing all the how the Power Virtual Agent stuff has come along too.
Cool. No problem.
And hey, you're on time, actually. I think you came in at about the hour.
That's because I deleted loads of slides.
That's all right. You always use less slides than you think. That's my top tip from these things.
Yeah, thanks for that.
So the question, if we haven't got any more questions, is what topics do people want to hear about next? New logic apps. Okay, then yeah, that sounds good. Would other people be interested in sort of the new logic apps v2? It's one where it all running as your functions. I'll take that as a yes.
Would anybody like a deeper dive on some of the stuff we've just seen this evening? Because I think we're barely scratching the surface, certainly in terms of demos.
Yeah, I would, definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, I think if we're going to do another session, we're better to wait for at least a month or two, because they're still releasing more features. Mm-hmm. So it'll be easy for me to explore all of those, like the ALM capabilities if they allow. So we could actually try and see if we could do things using DevOps. You know what I mean? So
okay, can we book you back in January then?
Yeah, I mean, I would say tentatively, but we'll wait for the updates from the team, and they are actually adding more and more almost every week. It's just they're not doing lots of announcement nowadays. All of a sudden, a blog post pops up, and then you see things change when you land in there.
Yeah, no, it's we've all been there, so it's good to see something that's moving so quickly and have a little bit of inside information on it.
Yeah, definitely. Just while we're talking about other sessions, then we're back in 2 weeks, aren't we? We've got Paul Gallagher's going to do a session on OneDrive deployments. He's been doing a big rollout to a big European bank, so he's going to share his insights. So that's on the 1st of December.
We got something lined up for the 2nd December one, which I guess we're certainly not going to be joining each other physically in the pub at that point, are we?
No, we talked about doing some sort of Christmassy type thing. So
yeah, we talked about a quiz, didn't we, and just some fun and games.
Yeah, we'll get something sorted out, and we'll share that.
Yeah,
over the next week or so.
How often do you do these sessions?
We're doing them every 2 weeks at the moment.
Okay.
Yeah, so yeah, I've been doing them every 2 weeks since was it end of May?
Yeah, we had a a session came up, and then we just had this stupid idea we talked ourselves into of let's do them every 2 weeks because we're insane.
Yeah.
And when they were in person, was that like every month? Was it?
It was every 2 months. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, we've had well, I think we've had some really good sessions.
Yeah.
So I mean, for me, the thing that I found interesting there was the like the chatbot framework there. So I mean, you know, I'm pretty new to this Power App stuff, but that did look pretty interesting to me. So I don't know. I mean, I imagine it goes a lot deeper than we saw there in that demo. But
okay, yeah, sounds good. So should we see if we can get someone to come and talk to us about Power Virtual Agents and then the bot framework?
Yeah, that's a good call.
Yeah, I know Kevin McDonald's done quite a lot on that as well, and I'm sure maybe other people in this room and maybe some people would be interested in doing a session for us. But yeah, we'll reach out to a few people and get something organised. Cheers, Tom. That's a good shout.
Right.
All right. Well, the other thing we then do is everyone goes and we go and get a drink. So I'm going to go and do that then. Actually, meet back in a few minutes.
Yeah, anybody is welcome to come back and we'll have a drink. So you don't have to come, but we'll just literally talk nonsense for at least half an hour with a glass in our hand.
Yeah,
I'm probably going to drop out at this point. But thanks a lot for the session. That was really good. You know, that was I got a lot out of that, so that was really good. Thanks for that.
Pleasure.
Cheers, Tom.
Yeah, right. Cheers. Right.
See you later.
See you. Bye.
Dylan, I'm also going to drop out because I need to look after my son. So.
Yeah, it's all right. Have you trained him much on writing apps yet?
Writing apps for, I mean, this.
Yeah, I think he could be, you know, he obviously wants to join in. It's never too early to start, you know.
Think about it.
Yeah, anyway, thank you for doing the talk. It was a great pleasure, and thank you for putting all that effort in. You've done a really good job there for your first talk, and I'm sure you'll get to run this talk many other times later in other groups. So, and we'll certainly put a good word in for you at any other user group. Fancy.
Okay,
yeah, absolutely.
Thanks a lot. Thanks for giving me the opportunity because I have never spoken outside of, well, even at Blacklight, I've only done once or twice. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, you did a good job.
All right, it's great. It's great stuff.
All right, thanks a lot.
Cheers.
Bye.
Okay, well, I'll see you all with a drink shortly.
Yeah. All right. Thanks very much for pitching up and joining in.